can't believe that anybody feels the way we do about our girls and all those courts we're traveling to. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see, we've been volleyball, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball.
Oh, this is going to be a very interesting version of Volleyball'd, Chapter 9. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Alison. Can't explain that behavior.
This is going to be a cliffhanger. In fact, someone could lose a finger.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
Wow.
Does that kind of drive up the intensity of the moment that we're going to do a revealing topic today?
Well, hopefully I can join whatever planet you're on by the end of the podcast.
I'm in a good place. I got a lot of sleep last night. I've had a good week so far. What's the problem here?
Well, he's had a good week because he's been sick. So
Yes.
he's been in bed.
Saturday and Sunday was not doing well.
And I've been carrying the Uber driver load.
I picked up my portion of it come Tuesday.
True.
Yesterday.
True story. True
and then
story.
Today I'm back in the saddle. I'm back. A couple workouts in, I'm good to go. We're in a good place here. I like this. Oh, by the way, I did have somebody who asked me, why do y'all call it Volleyball'd? You know, with apostrophe D. And I said, well, it's because it's like something happened to you.
You know those, and this has probably happened to you if you're a parent of a volleyball player and you've been to any tournament at a convention center, when you're in mid-sentence talking to someone and suddenly a ball flies from some court 3 miles away and cranks you on the side of the head and you forget where you are for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's what it feels like to be a parent of a club volleyball athlete. We've been volleyballed. We've been hit upside the head.
So that's how that works. Again, good question. And we'll take any and all questions. We had talked about this when we were putting together this podcast as one of the topics we wanted to get into. And this is going to be an Allie and Los only show. So it's just her and I today. And we want to talk about it from a personal experience standpoint. We run into so many parents that deal with challenges with their athletes when it comes to hydration. Now, okay, I know what you're thinking. Are they just going to talk about water? Like, no. But we also have the unique situation over the last 3 years. We have a POTS athlete. And if you're not familiar with POTS, I'm going to do my very best with this. Postural Orthostatic Syndrome.
Tachycardia.
Okay, that's the part I always mess up. We have met a lot of different parents where whether they've dealt with POTS or whether their child has just grown all of a sudden, they have had the trouble. And just for those of you who don't know what POTS is, that is a young athlete who has problems with regulating their blood pressure and their heart rate. So I think if this was maybe when we were growing up in the 90s, somebody would say, why don't you drink more Gatorade? Why don't you have more water? And largely it goes well beyond that. But again, we just want to talk about some of the stuff we've done and then some of the athletes we've known who have dealt with hydration issues and what they've done and just kind of pass along some tips. And so that's what we're really focusing on today.
Yeah, because what we do in prep for a tournament would help any athlete. It's not just because of the diagnosis we've received. And we've seen so many of our daughter's teammates go through hydration issues on the court where you don't see it coming and then all of a sudden you're down for the count. So just some things that we've learned over the years. But I would love just to kind of catch you all up with why we even know anything about this now.
And just to reiterate, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's POTS.
Can you tell I'm the one who goes to the doctor's office all the time?
Commonly known as POTS. Oh, I've been to the emergency room, but we'll get into that later.
I mean, okay, let's go back 30 years ago. I know when I was on the court or the field, I know I had that like igloo thermos that my mom made me bring with me, and she probably put some kind of powdered Gatorade in it that tasted like chalk, and I would drink it because I was thirsty. When you get thirsty, you drink as an athlete, right? That's just what you do. But I don't recall ever really learning about why that was so important for the body. Now, granted, I'm not an Olympian. I was never at an elite level that we're probably pushing our children at a much younger age than ever was necessary. But like most parents, we pay attention to some things. You know, maybe we always get on them about washing their hands, or we're very stringent about making their beds in the morning, or there are certain things that we are always nagging them about. There's other things that you just kind of like push to the side and you forget about, right? So I am very much guilty of that. So back up a little bit to Memorial Day weekend, 2023. So this was her 12th year of volleyball. We had a weekend off, Memorial Day weekend. So we actually joined some friends for a short weekend at the beach, where you pack a cooler in the morning. We've got sandwiches for the kids. We've got some beers and seltzers for the adults, some Gatorades and some waters for the kids. Did I pay attention to whether or not either of my child had an ounce of water the entire weekend? I didn't. They were in...
I was busy trying to make sure I had enough vodka. So I really wasn't paying much of attention either. It was more of, are you thirsty? Oh, there's something over here in the ice chest.
And they stayed wet the entire time. We were either in a pool, or they were like being tossed around in the waves. They were on the beach. They were just, having a great time. Actually, we brought a volleyball. They were playing some volleyball on the beach too,
And
if you recall.
And that was the other end of it, was that at no point with either of our daughters at the time, just you said 12 and 9, with some other friends that we were there with, none of them felt sick. None of them were sick to their stomach. None of them had any sort of issues when we went out to dinner. There was nothing that would have told you that something was going on.
Yeah. So fast forward, we come back from the beach. On Tuesday, when we get back, I take my daughter to a short little hour-and-a-half training session, small group. So there was like maybe 5 or 6 other girls there. So we get there and she's peppering with some of her friends and everything seems fine. I'm actually sitting on the floor against the wall because of the space and size of the gym on the side of the court. And the coach comes over and starts starting an official warm-up with them and has them doing a little circle drill. Nothing intensive at all. She stops in the middle of the drill and she comes over to me.
This being our 12-year-old daughter.
Yes,
by the way, at the
12-year-old at the time. She stops and she comes over to me and she is dripping sweat. Now, let me preface this. She's been in the gym for a total of 15 minutes. This kid literally at the time was working out like 5 days a week.
And she goes hard whenever she goes. This is not somebody who's a wallflower with this stuff.
And
she gets after it.
I can see beads of sweat like on her upper lip. She's like already soaked through her shirt. And she comes over and she was like, I feel a little weird. I'm like, whoa, okay, you're like really sweaty. You need some water. And I'm still sitting down. And I kind of point to her water bottle, which is right in front of me. And I say, here, grab some water. Let's see what's going on. Like, what's wrong? I watch her. She bends down to grab her water bottle. And I just watch her entire body go limp. And she starts to fall. And luckily, I'm sitting basically beneath her and catch her on the way down, because it could have been a lot worse. Her entire body goes limp. I roll her over once she gets on the ground. And her eyes are rolling back in her head. She's like puckering her lips but can't speak to me, and I'm trying to see what's wrong with her, and I'm like tapping her and I can't get her to like come to. Like she's awake, but she's like not snapping out of it. Other parents around me start to see what's going on, and next thing you know, we've got like a whole huddle of adults around us, and then someone alerts the gym we're at, and other coaches who are trained nurses come over. At one point, she kind of started shivering, which is something we've learned is a side effect of this. But she was shivering to the point where it was making her shake, which looked like a convulsion.
Looked like a seizure.
Someone said she's seizing, which we now know was not actually the case. But in the moment, it was pretty terrifying.
And so let me jump in right here, because thank you to Mr. Chad. Hopefully you're getting a chance to check this one out. He ends up giving me a quick call, a quick text, and letting me know what's going on. And he ends up being the person who gets emergency services involved and kind of flagging them down over towards the gym. And so I get this text message. It's a dad of a teammate of ours. And he's basically saying she's having a medical emergency. Here's where they're going. And so now I'm scrambling to the car. And I recall asking Alison, hey, where are they taking you all? And she says, we're going to this hospital. I showed up. And as it turns out, y'all had been told the wrong hospital.
Yeah, the ambulance driver told me one thing and then took me to a different hospital. So I'm in a hospital thinking I'm in one, and I'm actually in the other children's hospital. But I had no idea. I just came in the emergency room. I'm riding in an ambulance for the first time in my life.
They're checking all their systems, and they're, no, she's not here. It looks like she's down the street, which ended up being about 3 or 4 miles away. So it was inconvenient. But you want to talk about adding that layer of fear of what are we dealing with? And I think the initial scare is she had a concussion earlier in the year. That was part of one of the things she was coming back from that happened during the very first tournament. And so you wondered, oh my God, is she having some sort of neurological episode? Like, what exactly is this that caused her to basically faint and to pass out before she really even got into a workout?
So they did every test you can do on a child. I mean, there was an MRI, there was an EKG, there was, blood pressure monitoring. They did all the things, and everything came back completely normal, except for the orthostatic test, which is where they simultaneously test your blood pressure and your heart rate in different positions to see how it changes when you move different positions.
This is the O in POTS, by the way.
Orthostatic, correct. The doctors came in and they said she passed every test with flying colors except this one. The orthostatic test, every time, essentially they start laying down full 180 degrees, and they test your heart rate and your blood pressure. Then they move up to a 90-degree angle, wait 5 minutes, test everything, and then you have to stand, wait, and test everything. Essentially, when she would go from the sitting to the standing, her blood pressure drops, her heart rate spikes. And when that happens, you are not getting enough blood to the brain, and therefore you lose consciousness or get the disease or whatever you want to call it. They said this is a common side effect of dehydration. So after 2 full bags of fluids, my daughter was like literally doing jumping jacks, saying, when can we leave? When can we leave? She is like ready to go and a whole new person. So literally we left the ER just going, okay, parent tax, lesson learned.
When she's at the beach, we have to think about this.
And if it's happening at the beach, it's going to be happening on the court. We've got to be a little bit more stringent about making sure we keep this kid hydrated in the future.
So here's where we then start talking about the next things we were doing. For us, we didn't know enough about what we were up against. And so it started as, well, let's just make sure she's drinking more water. And that seems generally that's going to take care of a lot of athletes. Just, are you hydrating on the regular? Are you getting the fluids that you need? But then we started to find out a little bit more. And that little bit more.
Keep in mind, at this point, we'd still never heard the word POTS.
No, it was still just.
She had a dehydration issue.
Yeah,
that's it.
Here's what we know. She's dehydrated. Let's fast forward to the next year, because at that point, we had not had a dizzy episode. We had not had, if I remember, anything in school. We had not had for the remainder of that season, and that season ran all the way until the end of June. We had not had one time where we said, wow, this is a lingering issue. It just seemed like it was one time, dehydrated after the beach, and now it was over with until.
Yeah, so fast forward to January of 2024. She's now on a different team up in the 13s. We're at Little Big South, day 2. And in a pretty tight match, she is playing middle back defense, back row at the time, and takes a diving tumble, hits the ground pretty hard. I think she knocked her hip, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, she definitely, that's what we thought initially it was, because she was limping off the court when they went to a timeout.
So she just starts making these weird, she keeps blinking, like, if you watch a kid who's like trying to find her eyesight after she gets out of the pool or something, right? She's like blinking really hard, wiping her eyes and blinking and blinking. And I'm looking at her like, did she get sweat in her eyes? What's happening? Why is she like fidgeting so much? They call a timeout, and she does not go to her team with the timeout, which is rare for her, right? She goes straight over to the bench. I can tell she's going to get water. And I'm probably the only person in the building watching her and not watching the timeout or the referee or whatever. And I watch her bend over to go pick up her water bottle right next to the chairs at the bench and just like crumble into the bench where she like falls down on her knee and is holding herself up. And then she just like plops herself all the way down. I'm a mom. Any moms out there listening, you see your kid and you know something's wrong. I just like literally sprinted across the court, like through the volleyball court over to her.
So I'm with Dad Squad, and I see my wife run across the court. And again, not normal behavior. She is normally the team mom who's the reserve person who just cheers for the team. Getting her out of her chair and getting animated is not what she does. So to see her running across the court is an immediate sign of we have a real problem here. She's able to get over there. Fortunately, one of our teammates that year and then subsequent years, she's actually a nurse. And so she was one of the first people to come over and kind of give her a look. And this was this moment of, I heard about this all the previous year with what you dealt with at a practice, but now I'm seeing it. And you can see the vacant look on her face, the panic of, I don't know what I'm doing as far as trying to control my body.
And she can't speak. She can't like communicate to you what's happening, but you can see the like fear in her eyes that she's like having an episode, but she doesn't know how to tell you what's happening.
So the tournament officials, and this was Little Big South, as we were pointing out, they bring over wheelchair. And so that's, you see that oftentimes at the tournament. Typically that's a girl who hurts her ankle, hurts something along those lines. They basically had to lump that chair like she was a bag of potatoes. And that really kind of freaked out a lot of people that we were around. They took her over to basically the private tent and started looking her over. And this was really the first time where we had a discussion with a medical official who had seen this before. And she started talking to us about her hydration and also made the point to us that we had never considered. She goes, some athletes do not absorb hydration properly, correctly, or like other athletes. So you think that you're doing everything you're supposed to, but it's not going to work for her.
Her heart rate was spiking, like unhealthy heart rate for a girl her age, and her blood pressure was extremely low. So those two combos together, you're not going to be able to stand upright for that long. So yeah, this woman, I actually, every time I see her at one of the Georgia World Congress Center tournaments, we come back and say hi to her and give her a high five. But she's like, this is hydration, but you're going to need to get looked at more seriously at this point. It is my recommendation that we send her to the ER, which, as a mom, your heart drops. She's like, I can't get her heart rate to stop spiraling, and her blood pressure is still significantly low, and she's been laying here for 30 minutes. I think it's time to get her there. Now, they let us drive her. They did not call an ambulance.
That was the plus side of this time around. I'm like, okay, great. We're going to go back to where we were at Children's, and we brought her in, the typical situation of checking her in, and they ran the same battery of tests, and they put an IV bag into her. And what would you say? I think it was just one this time around.
No, they did two again.
Okay, so 2 bags. And as you and I are both sitting there, she immediately springs back to like
you just like
normal.
Watch her come back to life. She goes from being, like Carlos said, a sack of potatoes, completely lethargic, like she's got 105 fever, to like completely normal.
To the point where she asked, "Did we win the match?" We're like, "Yes, y'all are now 6-0." And she's like, "Well, can I play tomorrow?" We're like, yeah, sure. And to finish off at least that part of that story, she came back and she was our kills leader on the 3rd day. Like, she just went off like nothing had happened to her. And so that's where, as we just talked about, like, this is the hydration episode, the POTS episode. For those of you who have dealt with small amounts of this or the large amount of this, there are ways to deal with it. But we've been now dealing with, this is now year 3 of having to consistently watch what she is consuming, how she's feeling, how she's during workouts, and also tell coaches, be right up front and honest with them. Your normal punishments at times, sometimes it's burpees for the girls, up downs as they were known back in the day, that can't work for her. It's the change of body position. She'll do all the ab work you want, but we have to manage this now moving forward.
Yeah, it wasn't the ER that gave us a diagnosis either. That's not their job. They're just trying to make sure that you walk out of there alive, essentially. But they did refer us to a cardiologist who we went to see that week. And again, EKG, all the tests, everything was totally fine. Luckily, this particular cardiologist said he was the father of 6 children, and 4 of the 6, both boys and girls, between the ages, I think he said, of like 12 and 16, had very similar episodes to this. A couple of them were fully diagnosed with POTS, others not, but they treated them the same way. And so this is where we started learning. Again, let's go back to our food diagram from the 80s, and we're taught that salt is bad, right? Salt is bad, salt is bad. But salt is bad if you have high blood pressure, right? If you have low blood pressure, salt is a godsend. It's what you have to keep your body running on in order. And think about these athletes, they're sweating nonstop. That is your body vacating salt from the body. So you have to replenish it.
And for those athletes that have hydration issues, and again, from our standpoint, we deal with POTS, so we deal with the extreme of it. But it always goes back to volume and salt. What are you consuming, and do you have the right amount of salt? And so we're consistently, whenever you see, you'll have somebody who will turn around and look at like any sort of box of food and say, well, look at the sodium in it. This is too much salt. We're like, put it in our cart. She's going to make sure and she eats that, because we have to find ways to consistently try and get that hydration into her cells. And that's one of the things that for people who do deal with POTS, 90% of it can be dealt with just hydration, salt, and the right fluids in the body.
Yeah, and it's not just drinking water, like we said before. It's eating fruit. There's a lot of water in fruit. We actually have started doing broths, because it's a way to get some calories as well as liquid into the body. And it's not just like taking spoonfuls of table salt. Table salt has been stripped of most of the minerals that make it what it's supposed to do in the body. So, the pink Himalayan salts, Celtic salt is what we now have her always have in her bag, so she can just put a little bit on her pinky finger and stick it under her tongue before she starts a workout, and it just like helps the body regulate more. We get the water when it's buy one get one free that has the alkaline and magnesium and sodium chloride in it, because these are all the minerals that actually help your muscles absorb the water versus the water just running straight through you and either being peed or sweat out.
And that's the important part that we have found out. And again, we're not medical experts. This is what has worked for us and what we've been told by physicians, that when you have an athlete who is consuming tons of water, and yet you're saying, like, why do they keep dehydrating like this? And again, ours is an extreme. There's other people that'll have cramping issues or they'll have dizzy spells. And we've been consistently told not all athletes can absorb the minerals and what they should have in the water the same way. That for some reason, some people do not let it break down in their body the same way. And one of the discussion points that's been out there is that sometimes it's tied to if you have some sort of viral illness, that somehow clicks this thing off and gets it going. And so no matter what it is, once you're dealing with it, you're looking around at other parents trying to say, okay, what's working for your athlete? Why is it not working for mine? What do I do from here?
It's basically a breakdown of the central nervous system, right? Yeah. Like your body forgets how to do what it's supposed to do. And so you're just doing these extra precautionary measures to keep it from doing it. Everyone's watched the finish line of a marathon on TV or whatever, where you see someone's body just physically breaking down on them. Their muscles just give out because they physically can't stand anymore. It's the same thing happening with the blood flow in the body. And this can happen whether you're a full-on, POTS diagnosed athlete like our child is, or you just need more ample hydration in order to get through the day. It could be a blood sugar issue. It's totally trial and error, but we've seen it happen with so many other teammates that have none of the same issues as my daughter, but they just, you'll be in that third or fourth match on day 2, day 3, and you just see them start to give out. They get the blank stare and it's like they're gone. So these are the kind of things that can really help you if you're thinking ahead of time. So
let me go through some of our tips and our tricks. Again, somebody's going to lose a finger in this episode. This is getting intense.
It's not going to be me. I'm going to tell you that right now.
So intense. It won't be me. We'll see how this plays out. So because we had talked to there's one local nurse that we've used in the past. And one of the things that my daughter now does is we have a local hydration place. And it's routine for us now whenever she is sick and she's coming back from being sick, because kids, when they get sick, tend to get dehydrated. It's just part of what goes on. And she's working out nearly 5 times a week. So when she gets sick and she misses a workout, we know we need to get her rehydrated. We routinely go and get her an IV bag. And what we've joked around about is that $85 to $110 is better than the $2,000, $3,000 in the emergency room.
Heck yeah, it is.
It's considerably better. But that nurse, he had told me he had read a story when he started to see more of this stuff. He said he had read about a high school runner, and that what is now happening when she runs, she's a distance runner, there's somebody who's always at the finish line waiting to catch her. Not just because her body is going to give out from the distance running, but at some point, her brain is still telling her to run, her body is still telling her to run, but when she crosses the finish line, that's when the brain and the body go, we're done. And so she has to have somebody catch her. That's her version of dehydration and her version of POTS. And so one of the things we've done now with this travel, when we are in Dallas, when we're in Orlando, we actually have now gotten to know some of the mobile IV nurses. And I've actually personally have their numbers to text them our schedule. And so we now have, whether it's players on our team who have been sick recently that week, or they have hydration issues, or in my case, when it comes to my daughter, she's got POTS. They show up to the hotel room, and we had a line last year at AAUs where I think it was 7 girls that were in the room all getting IV bags for various reasons, because they know they're going to be going hard for 10 to 12 matches in a 3 to 4 day period.
Nationals, that's a 4-day tournament. Your body is going to get dehydrated at some point. So whatever you can do to stay ahead of that.
And one of the other things that we've kept around, and it's always been more for me, because I've made it a point to keep track of my blood pressure as I've gotten older. And I, at one point, 7 or 8 years ago, had high blood pressure and was able to get that taken care of and under control just through diet and exercise. But I have a monitor. And so when she goes through a particularly difficult workout, and we're curious, because what'll happen is when she gets dehydrated, she's already low blood pressure to start with. We know she's dehydrated when her blood pressure is really low. And so one of the things that we've seen when we take her to the IV clinic that she goes to get hydrated, first off, call them ahead of time, because some of them do have restrictions. Obviously, when you're the parent of the athlete and they're under 18, you're probably not going to have a problem. But some of them do have restrictions when it comes to the size of the athlete. In our case, 100 pounds and over is what they allow. But we can always, beforehand, if I know she's not feeling well or I'm a little bit concerned, we can use the blood pressure monitor and go, you are definitely dehydrated, because look how low your blood pressure is. That's when we know she's got to start rehydrating again.
Yeah, and this is an extreme, but my daughter takes potassium capsules every day. So these are pure capsules with sodium in them, sodium and electrolytes. Electrolytes are huge. So for some of you, it could be as simple as making sure they have a liquid IV on hand in their water in between matches or during matches, whatever works for you. My kid won't drink anything that's flavored at all. So
Which is awful. The fact that I love a little liquid IV, especially after a volleyball weekend with the team dad, sometimes you need one as a little pick-me-up. But the fact that she won't touch it, we've had to now try. We've even added to our armament this year. We bought pickle shooters. Basically what they are small bottles of pickle juice.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that ends up being that little pick-me-up that she might need when she feels like she's starting to fade a little bit from dehydration.
Electrolytes, sodium, there's a million brands out there. Test them out, see what works for you. LMNT, everybody likes their own specific brands. We tried a brand called Buoy, which is supposed to be tasteless. But
Did it turn out it wasn't?
She tastes the salt, so we have to hide that and stuff. But it's about learning what works for your child, and we're still trial and erroring this stuff. Like, we just started doing the Fast Chew potassium chewable tablets before her evening practices, even though she's already had sodium in the morning, just to see if it helps get her through. We're just trying to avoid having her completely drop out like that again. And we're not saying water is the enemy. This child drinks water every day, all day.
She doesn't like, I don't even think she's ever had a soda in her life.
No, she hates soda.
She doesn't like sodas. She doesn't like most juices. Like, she likes water. That's her primary jam. It's water and lemonade. And that girl has never had, in my 14 years, I don't believe I've ever seen her open up a carbonated soda beverage, ever.
Yeah, it's not in her wheelhouse. Don't go Googling POTS and self-diagnose. It's not something that you want for your child, I promise you that. But the treatments that you do for POTS can help any athlete, any elite athlete that is attempting to stay hydrated. I don't know how many of you know this, but Katie Ledecky, who is I don't even know how many gold medals she has. Too many to count.
Yeah, one of the most illustrious American women swimmers of all time.
Yeah, she has POTS. So just because you're surrounded by water and in water and have water dripping on your face does not mean that you're necessarily fully hydrated. And if an athlete like that, and she's a long distance swimmer, by the way, if an athlete like that can manage her hydration intake, then I feel like any volleyball player can as well.
And some of that is the other athletes that you see. If you're ever having an athlete with a cramping issue, go to hydration, go check it out, test them out with that stuff. Look into what they're consuming before and after, because as much as we're very stringent, because when you sign up for one of these teams, and obviously you pay what you're paying, it's awful to think that you go to a tournament and your kid falls out in the first couple days. And we were at nationals when my daughter was 13. We're in a really tough match. In the very first match of the tournament, we were one of the lower seeds, and we're playing the number 5 seed, and we got them on the ropes in the third set, and she made an amazing play, and we win the point and we win the match. And the first thing she does is she falls down and she lays behind the bench because she was out of gas. And so that was a moment of saying, all right, we got to go and get her an IV bag. But we've also had other teammates where the cramping issue starts. And so then they've come to us with like, hey, what do y'all have? Because we have a bag full of stuff. And so whether it's the extreme of POTS, which we've dealt with, or if it's just cramping and hydration, find some stuff that works for you. Because that's what we've had to do with the trial and error.
Because what is the hydration actually doing for your athlete's body? Blood flow, right? It's
Blood flow.
all about blood flow. So many people are experimenting with these post-recovery devices you put on your legs.
Compression is a big push
to
that they
get the
talk
blood
about.
flow back into the legs to have renewal and recovery. All of this is related to hydration and getting the blood flowing through the body. You might see athletes out there wearing a different color sock or compression sleeve on the leg. That's not only about combating injury. It might be about someone with POTS who's trying to keep the blood from pooling in their lower extremities and keeping it flowing throughout the body. The college athletes now, if you watched, they're wearing these like bands around their neck that compress at just the right point that is meant for POTS athletes to help keep the blood flow moving throughout their entire body, including up into their head, so they can fight off the lightheadedness and dizziness.
So if you ever see my older daughter at a tournament and you see her laying on the ground with her feet on a chair, just know that she's not being lazy. That is I'm having it, I'm feeling it a little bit, I need to recover. And once everything goes back to normal, then she gets hydrated and she plays like normal. But it's now year 3. And she's learned to deal with it, and she's only missed that time at Big South when she was 13, but her 14 season was always a matter of keeping an eye on her, and we're going to have to do the exact same thing this time around, and also put some of it on her too. She's got to make sure that she's consuming, even when she thinks, I've had enough water, I've had enough salt, Mom, Dad, I don't want to have any more. Have some more. We'll work a little bit more in. Let's double up a little bit when we can. And when she does ask for a particular dinner where we say, man, that's a little salty, Alison and I have gotten used to now saying, all right, fine, let's do it.
Yeah, I no longer purchase the low sodium soy sauce.
Yeah.
She eats fully loaded.
Yeah, my wife unfortunately has had for years to try and get low sodium stuff for both her and I, and, just just how we eat. We're not big salt people, but now we've turned into, hey, how much salt do we have in this? How much sodium is there? We got to make sure that this child's filled with it. And just to show you, we've never seen any of this with our younger athlete who's 11. Now, could she grow into it? Could she ever get an illness and possibly have it happen? Sure, but we've never seen it. And so it's one kid to the next. You just never know.
So just have some stuff prepped in in your athlete's bag. I'm hearing a lot of good things about these stingers that runners use, where you can just do a quick gel shot into the mouth just to give them some quick electrolytes to boost their energy. But these long 3 and 4 day tournaments, they are completely draining and taxing. So make sure they're eating right, make sure they're staying hydrated, and do what you can to keep them upright and winning.
And when we're in Orlando, do not try and get a hold of Nurse Robin. She belongs to us. She is our friend. She's the one that we always go. No, seriously, if you're ever in Orlando and we're all there together, we're at a tournament, don't hesitate. Reach out. We'll typically have our room available. Even if you're just listening to this podcast, you're saying, hey, those people seem like they know what they're doing. I might want to be part of it. Reach out. Let us know. We'll get you hooked up. Why don't you take us out?
I can't tell you how much research I've done on this, and it actually feels like a big giant exhale to be able to talk about it out loud, because so much of it happens in my head as the mom worry for my child has been oftentimes something I do at 2:00 in the morning by myself. So thank you for listening, and hopefully it helps someone.
Today is gonna be the day that we run out of cash. Watching every serve and kill, it's a total smash. By now you should have somehow realized what we've lost. Our free time's gone, it's all for volleyball at any cost. I can't believe that anybody feels the way we do about our girls and all those courts we're traveling to. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see. We've been volleyball'd, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. Backbeat, the word is on the street that we're broke again. Entrance fees for tournaments our girls already in. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but we're at the bar, drinking through the overwhelm. No life beyond this far. Don't believe that anybody feels the way we do about the nets and all the chaos we're stuck into. And all the roads we drive, all the stakes you see. We've been volleyball'd, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. The hotel nights, the drinks, they keep us finding a way to cope with all this endless grind. Oh, we're trapped, no life outside. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see. We've been volleyball'd, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. Today was gonna be the day, but we're still here. Volleyball, oh volleyball. I don't believe that anybody feels the way we do. We're lost in this